Good evening. My name is Patrick Callahan, and I'm here to talk to you about leptospirosis. Many of you may not have heard of this disease before this presentation, and I'm hoping to enlighten you of it in the few minutes that I have. So what is leptospirosis? Well, it's the most widespread zoonotic infectious disease in the world, and if you're like me, that will come as a surprise to you. Before doing this report, I had no idea how prevalent leptospirosis is, but it's worldwide. It's a bacterial disease which is spread through infected mammals, and in particular rats and mice. And so it's a zoonosis. It's also a vehicular transmission because urine from infected rodents and mammals makes its way into water, and the disease is mainly spread through water. A contact transmission is possible, but pretty rare. The disease has several different symptoms, and as we'll see, that's a big problem in treating it and diagnosing it. It can often be diagnosed late or misdiagnosed. Leptospirosis doesn't really have a lot of hallmark signs, just a lot of diverse ones. There are a few hallmark signs, and we'll get to that. And again, it has a widespread prevalence. It prefers, wet, more tropical environments because it is spread through water. But it is prevalent all over the globe. The causative agent for leptospirosis is Leptospira interrogans. It's one of two species of the Leptospira genus. The other species is Leptospira biflexa, and it is not pathogenic as far as scientists have been able to tell. While there's only two species of the genus, there are hundreds of serovars. Serovar is just a more specific way of determining or of classifying bacteria and viruses. It used to be assumed that the different serovars of Leptospira interrogans resulted in the different symptoms of leptospirosis. That's no longer thought to be the case. But it is kind of important to recognize the diversity within even just the species of this organism. There's a few, hallmark characteristics of the organism, such as, its corkscrew or spiral shape, and its hooked ends. Uses these like hooked ends to move, and it's very motile. It can move very well in the water, and so that's why it prefers the wet climate and why it's transmitted through water. It can survive in a lot of different environments. It doesn't really like drought, like dry climates as much. The pathology for leptospirosis is pretty straightforward. So again, it starts with an infected rat or other rodent or mammal who pees into the river or a body of water, and then an infected person or a person enters that water source. And, maybe he or she has an open wound, a cut, or else swims in the water. Then the pathogen can enter, either the open wound or mucous membranes. And after that, a variety of symptoms occur, but only after a critical amount of the disease enters the blood. So you need multiple bacteria before you'll start to show symptoms of leptospirosis. And again, the symptoms are very broad. You'll have a lot of infections which are asymptomatic. Even, for mammals, there's a lot of rats that carry the disease but are asymptomatic for it, and the same for people. Most infections, though, will result in some mild symptoms. You'll get headaches, chills, fever, and maybe some muscle soreness. And if you'll notice, these are similar to the symptoms for the flu, as well as for some other diseases which we've covered in class, which is a big problem in diagnosing the disease, because if you're in flu season, you go to the clinic and then explain your symptoms to a physician, he or she's probably going to assume the flu before something like leptospirosis, despite it being common worldwide. It's not the first thing that someone would expect. Some of the symptoms are more severe, and you can have kidney damage, meningitis, maybe some liver failure, even death occasionally. And we expect to see about 5 to maybe 15% of cases of leptospirosis resulting in these more severe symptoms. Treatment and prevention for leptospirosis. Again, the biggest way to treat the disease is to diagnose it early. Leptospirosis is often diagnosed late because it can be misdiagnosed or hard to track because of the many different symptoms which might reveal themselves. So an early laboratory diagnosis is important, and it's not always easy to get, but that's the most certain way of treating the disease before some of those severe symptoms show, if they do show. If it's discovered early enough, then antibiotics should be given, particularly doxycycline and penicillin. For outdoor and agricultural workers in particular, they're mainly at risk for leptospirosis. If you're walking through wet soil or some water, you need to wear protective gear. You cover up your wounds, maybe get some waterproof bandages if you have a cut on your leg and you're going into water. It can be difficult to tell what bodies of water are contaminated, but try to avoid the ones that certainly are. And just make sure you don't walk into water with an open wound. Some historical facts about leptospirosis. So let's assume that the ancient Chinese and Japanese were aware of leptospirosis, just in the sense that they knew that there are some hazards with harvesting rice, which is a very it thrives in a wet climate, rice, and so you can easily contract the disease from working in wet environments. It was probably introduced to Europe in the 18th century, along with the introduction of a specific rat species from eastern Eurasia. And leptospirosis was first reported in 1870 by Adolf Weil in Heidelberg, who noticed a severe syndrome of that infected multiple organs and had a high mortality rate that can be seen in leptospirosis. It's pretty rare, but it is seen in the disease. And so that is the main hallmark symptom of the disease when it does appear, and that was given the term Weil's disease. The hazards to agricultural workers was recognized early in the 1900s. Now some recent news about leptospirosis. It's very common. It's a big emerging disease. It's estimated that 1 million severe cases of the disease are seen worldwide, and about 60,000 deaths per year. There's been some large outbreaks in some moister climates, such as Nicaragua, Brazil, India, Malaysia, even the US. A lot of research is going into mainly the pathogenesis for leptospirosis. Not a lot is known about how the disease arises. It'd be nice to understand why there's so many various symptoms for the disease and what's going on in the pathogenesis for leptospirosis. And so the World Health Organization, Pasteur Institute in France, and this is part of a wing of the CDC, the Leptospirosis Burden Epidemiology Reference Group. They're all working on trying to learn more about this disease. So thank you for watching this presentation, and see you in class.